what's going on? Trade war, ladies and gentlemen, that's what's going on. The markets have been somewhat really difficult to really get a direction on things. Now, you can say, yeah, Bitcoin's going to go down and all of that stuff. But from a day trading perspective, you've got lots of things that are happening. And especially now that we've got this talk about a trade war, the Eurozone itself is coming out and saying, all right, Trump, you want to put tariffs on us? We'll do exactly the same to you. And that's where it comes with car manufacturers, all right? Everyone seems to be buying all the cars made in the Eurozone in the States. No one really buys American cars in the Eurozone. So Trump's want to try and make them pay the price for doing so. With that being said, guys, we're going to dive into a little bit of Bitcoin price action, understand what's hitting the news and what have you, and then we'll call it a day. Why? Because Powell's going to be speaking at 3 p.m. UK time, which is 10 a.m. Eastern Standard. So you can appreciate the markets right now. Mad days, my eyes are fried. You can appreciate right now that the market itself is on edge because Powell's going to be talking about monetary policy and inflation. And I'm going to dive into a couple of things which pretty much tell us the Fed doesn't need to do anything when it comes to the interest rates. They just need to keep them as they are because the US economy is doing all right. So let's get with the flavor, ladies and gentlemen. Let's put these mad glasses on to protect my eyes. Let's have a conversation, gang. Here we go. So, yep, trade war jitters is coming into play, ladies and gentlemen. Let me just tell you something about trade war right here. Here is a chart where everything about the US, this is the US dollar against the Chinese, China-US trade. And you can see here, every little flag right there, all right, represents a time where something happened between China and US. Look at this. So you have here American Chips and Science Act with Biden. Go down here, you've got US exempts tariffs on 352 Chinese goods. We go up here, you've got US extends banned Huawei for 90 days and intensifies restrictions. You got more flavor down. Where else is there? Here we go. Like the US removes China from the currency manipulator list. Like there's all sorts of things happening inside of these. Not all of them are included, but you can see that China and the US, when it comes to trade, they are always going to be doing something. There's never going to be a happy medium when it comes to it. Now, let me just draw your attention to where we are from a macro perspective so you understand exactly what Powell could be talking about. So, economic fundamentals. It says here that data confirms moderate growth and good for sustaining market momentum. So that means as long as the economy is doing all right, then, ladies and gentlemen, just keep buying. I mean, only yesterday, Goldman Sachs has put out that there are a lot of investors, hedge fund managers that are just net long and they just don't care. And risk is on right now. So any dip that you see in the market, in principle, is going to start making a move to the upside. Now, with that being said, going into the next thing, you can see here, these two charts are very interesting. On the left, you can see here that the US economy is expected to maintain its moderate growth. Look what's going on over here, right? There's not that much investment happening, but consumption is going up. That's what's going to be fueling the idea of the economy expanding, but at the same time, inflation could be a bit of a problem for us. Go to the right, you can see economic expectation index. It's on a trajectory to keep on moving up. Okay, of course, COVID did all of this, but you can see naturally that they are expecting the economy to grow. All right, so that's another inflationary problem. Going into it, liquidity environment, Fed holds rates as expected while the ECB and Bank of Canada continue easing. So with this story behind this is all the nations out there, all the big banks have cut their interest rates, yet the United States is the only one that hasn't really gone so aggressive with its interest rate cuts. That only means what? Well, look at the Eurozone. They've been cutting their interest rates quite aggressively, which means that the yield on the euro is not going to be worth investors overseas. So where are they going to go? The dollar. Happy days. So now you've got yourself a stronger dollar. Appreciation on the dollar is currently right now, let's go over to it, 7.8%. It hasn't done anything. It hasn't gone anywhere. But fundamentally, as long as the dollar goes down, the euro in likeliness is going to keep on marking higher. And that's good news for the euro for the short term. Remember, if they're cutting the interest rates on the euro, investors aren't going to really be showing an interest in holding European yields. Okay? Going back into it, we got another thing right here. Corporate earnings, 77% of US companies beat the forecasts. That's great news because as long as companies are doing well with their forecasts, it does suggest that the economy is doing all right because people are going out there consuming the product, business to business and what have you. It's all looking well for them. So that only gives the market, or should I say the Fed, more of a reason just to keep the interest rates as they are. But they do have that problem with inflation because tariffs are going to come into play and that's going to obviously mess that up. Now, going into it, or you can see here, look, most of the S&P companies expected to grow across the board. You've got healthcare coming in at the top, and of course, info technology. So information technology is up there. Materials is starting to come up as well. Going into it, Trump's policies, that's the only thing that's really going to be concerning investors. We know that tariffs are going to be coming into play. So the idea is, what's it all going to do for cryptocurrency? Well, they don't mention anything about cryptocurrency, but we go over to Bitcoin and understand a couple of things. Check this out. North Carolina launches Bitcoin Build to Invest State Fund. If it wasn't Utah, it's Arizona. Now it's North Carolina. In the end, they're all going to be wanting to do this in terms of investing in Bitcoin and putting it into their funds. But when are they going to do it? That's what we want. We want them to start picking all of that Bitcoin up to suggest Bitcoin's going to keep on marking higher. Going into the ETF, you can see it, 584,000. Not really that much activity in terms of the ETF. BlackRock has also made another purchase of 227.38 Bitcoin for 22 million. So as long as BlackRock is buying, we are all good, and that balance is remaining nicely. Going into the liquidations for my day traders, you can see that we do have an interesting point up here. We're on roughly around the 100,100 mark. You got $133 million worth of short liquidations coming into play. And remember what we were saying yesterday, that funding rates were negative. So that usually gives us the idea that we could be heading into a market bottom. Going into bottom of the Bitcoin, you can see Bitcoin has now made a little run to the downside. It's pulled back. Well, that could explain why, because Jerome Powell is having a conversation at 3 p.m., which is in the next 50 minutes. So he's going to be letting us know exactly what the monetary policy is. He's going to be speaking to the SBC, which is the Senate Banking Committee, and they're going to be asking him questions. So, Powell, what do you think? Is it going to be a good story for us? Is it going to be a bad story? Where are we at with interest rates? He's only going to turn around and say data, data, data. So why is he going to go to the effort of going to testify to these guys when they already know exactly what the story is? Now, with that being said, going into earnings, we don't really have anyone coming out with anything, but Coca-Cola have done really, really well in terms of earnings. They've done really well with their expectations as well. Everyone seems to be taking on Coca-Cola, and they're just absorbing all that diabetic juice. Well, sugar doesn't really cause diabetes, but that's another story. We'll talk about that another time. Going into the Bitcoin Coin Premium Index, let's just have a little quick update on that. You can see it's starting to flatten out a little bit, but it shows that the expectation is that investors are actually buying Bitcoin. Well, those same investors that saw Bitcoin yesterday rise have now come to a situation where it's now come down, and that might be a bit of a problem for them to shake them out. Now, going into the order flow itself, guys, you can see Bitcoin, there's lots of bids. And if you watched last night's video and my perspective on what I'd need to see Bitcoin doing, you got to remember, there are a lot of people that are trying to sell here, but at the same time, you've got this amount of bids that are coming in, and it's just the market can transact on these points. This is where you're going to start seeing the supply of Bitcoin being taken, okay? And you really want to see them just take, it's just spot Bitcoin, spot. Some of it is perpetual as well, but you got most of it is Bitcoin futures markets, which is what a lot of people say, that futures markets kind of dictate where Bitcoin's price is going to go, all right? Because they're using leverage. And when you're using leverage, you're consuming more. So that's something you really need to take into consideration when you are trading Bitcoin. Looking at the bids, and you can see down here, we've got lots of liquidity in that nice 69, right? No. It's been removed. Ladies and gentlemen, they removed that liquidity. Okay, so that might be a good thing or not. Hold on. Yeah, man, they removed that 69 million. Yep. They've removed that 69 million bid order that we marked off last night. Watch last night's video and it will show you around the 78 zone. Got 34 million and 14 million right there at the 83 and the 84 zone. Wow. All right, so 50% of the order may have been taken off, and now they've added some of it. So, okay, that's really interesting. But what I'm seeing is I'm seeing too much of a bid collective right here. But given with Powell coming out and having a conversation, and Bitcoin now has just broken the psychological range, it would really need to hold itself inside of this zone. And if Powell does say something to suggest that the interest rate cuts are going to be coming into play, then naturally the market is going to reverse from that logic. Quickly going over into the Japanese yen to understand where we are with things. See, the yen is actually going down right now, which is good news, because the yen going down, it means they're transacting on dollars. But the dollar going up, that only means the euro is going to be coming down ever so slightly. Quickly going over to gold. Gold has made a nice little reversal back down again, preparing for the next hedgeable event. You got a red vector candle up here that could be coming into play with gold. So just take that into consideration when you are looking at trading gold. There is that zone, and investors are in that safe haven environment. They do want to take advantage of that flavor. Going into it all, so we've got Bitcoin census saying that we've got a breakout retest moon, according to Jelly. So looks like Bitcoin is trying to break out of this trend line right here. But then again, just consider where the macros are and what could actually impact Bitcoin's price from going up or down. It seems like Bitcoin does seem to be holding out relatively well inside of these ranges. And again, it's just being boring and not really doing anything. You've got 1 hour time frame. You can see it's not really doing too much. You go into the daily time frame. And remember what I said about the daily time frame yesterday on that video. Please go and watch it. You really want to see Bitcoin closing inside of this upper band of the cloud for 3 days straight to suggest the idea that it's going to continue higher. All right. And if you see Bitcoin stuck inside of this lower band, there is a possibility that Bitcoin is going to come down lower. All right. So just take that into consideration when you are trading Bitcoin. Any questions, guys? This bull market is so terrible. It's manipulated. It is, man. Yours, listen, I'm going to update you all after the live. So it's not that nothing's invalidated just yet. We've got to wait for the information to come out with Powell. I think this is just a stop run. You've got to factor that. YLT, I've been using DOM recently. I wanted to know if you've ever used it alongside the DOC calculate depth of... Oh, you flipping guy. Oh, my days. The guy actually included the depth of camels. Bro, you are special, man, but that was nice. Well done. I like that one. Well done. You had me there, bro. Honestly, you had me at that one. Got me. The effort you went to write that out. Anyways, have I been looking at any options? I haven't looked at any. I trade options, but I haven't looked at any options lately because it's just absolutely treacherous. All right, implied volatility is not really that key when you're honest. But anyways, do you think this is being used like a black swan event just to finalize liquidations? Then we move up. Look, man, before Bitcoin moves up, they need to really shake everyone out in the belief that it's done. Again, Bitcoin, Coinbase Premium Index, don't buy when it's green. Please don't buy when it's green. All right. You buy when it's negative. You buy when it's red because you're aligning yourself with what's going on over here with the buy orders down here. And then you're aligning yourself with retail traders getting liquidated. And you're also aligning yourself with the idea that if the vector candles are coming into play, then you're going to be expecting vectors to get recovered on the way back up again. Again, for the daily holders, just remember, as long as Bitcoin stays below this 50 EMA cloud and stays in the lower band, don't be buying Bitcoin. All right. It might be going up and down, but just don't buy Bitcoin unless it starts to trade inside of this cloud zone right here. You know, that's what my opinion would be. All right. Everyone's going to be putting it on Twitter right now. You can see they've already got the idea that it's going to break out to the upside. Okay, cool. But I think once we know where we are with monetary policy and how much things are going to be costing in the future, then we'll know if investors are going to start plowing into Bitcoin. You know, you got all these sovereign funds coming out saying, yeah, we're going to put Bitcoin as part of our treasury. But when are you actually going to start buying the Bitcoin? And that's what's really important about it, guys. I ain't going to stream Powell, no. Tina, what's your thoughts on altcoins? Are any of them and are in any of them long term? Do I know how to pronounce aluminium? I know. ETH. Let's have a look at ETH. I mean, ETH positions are just... I mean, ETH has had the day off. Like, ETH doesn't work anymore. So, much more liquidity to the downside, a little to the upside. Okay. Yeah, look, guys, it's when you've got this sort of boring price action, you can tell that the market is just waiting for news. They're waiting to hear what Trump is going to say. All right. They're waiting to hear what Powell's going to say. We're not in a macro environment now. We're waiting for Trump. And that's something that you've got to really take into consideration when you do decide to trade. All right. So just be very careful with that all, guys. All right. Okay, then. Tino, thoughts on the reverse repo DDR? All right. And so with this story about the reverse repo, it's this stuff right here. All right. Just to put it into perspective. When this goes up, Bitcoin goes down. When this goes down, Bitcoin goes up. That's the simple thing about it, okay? And to put it into perspective, this right here, if we just DIY and we add Bitcoin to it, you've seen me do this before. Oh, God. Here we go. So Bitcoin's the red price, red line, RRP is the blue one. When RRP goes up, Bitcoin has a hard time climbing. When it goes down, Bitcoin climbs up really well. All right. So Arthur Hayes been talking about this. A lot of people mention this, but when you try and understand exactly how Bitcoin is going to move, you've got to think of it in terms of where is their liquidity? Because everyone borrows money, all right? And everyone puts money to work, all right? So to even put it into perspective, like, look at this, just so that you understand exactly how hedge fund managers are going to operate. Look at the euro's implied rate differential right now. It's 1.8, all right? That is wonderful. That's going to naturally encourage investors to try and step in on the euro. Just for a period of 6 days, you can initiate a 1.8% implied rate differential, which is actually 1.6. So you're still getting a good rate of return from exchanging dollars into euros and holding it for a period of 6 days. All right. The same logic applies to Bitcoin. Should I go and borrow some dollars right now and then sell it to go into Bitcoin? What's the rate I'm going to be paying? Well, we go into calendar over here. You look on the left. You can see here that the pound is up there with 4.5% on interest rates, and the US is matching it at 4.5. So technically, your yield really is matched between pound and dollar. And the dollar doesn't like that. The dollar doesn't like the euro at all, you know? And it's a massive impact. And given now the euro is going to try and come around and start taxing the US, it's trade war all over again. And when you've got trade war, that kind of can be good for Bitcoin. Why? Because it means that investors are going to be like, okay, is there going to be a flight to hedging? All right, because if the dollar is fluctuating or the euro is fluctuating and they really need to put their money somewhere where it's not really prone to tariffs, then Bitcoin could be on the cards. But it's whether they do decide to do that, because they've already started to do that because they're going into gold. So yeah, take that into consideration when you are looking at trading or wanting to get involved in Bitcoin. All right. Remember, if the bigger players keep talking about buying the Bitcoin, but we don't see them buying the Bitcoin, it's because they're waiting for something to happen in order for them to buy the Bitcoin. You know, monetary policy statements and FOMCs are going to put things into perspective on what Bitcoin can do next. So once you get those events out of the way, then happy days, you know? Cool. Bitcoin is not prone to tariffs until Trump says so. Otherwise, well, if Bitcoin wasn't prone to tariffs, then why, when Trump said reciprocal tariffs on Friday, did Bitcoin slump? So it is prone to it. You might think the technology isn't prone to tariffs. Of course it isn't. But when you're being told that there's going to be a tax on top of the money that you are using, well, and the product that you are buying, then you're going to have to start maneuvering your monies. Bitcoin's money. Simple as. Yeah, one day they're bad, one day they're good. It all depends. It all depends. From a price action perspective, the market hears tariffs, it wets the bed. But when you look at the bigger picture, like I just said, when you consider that if it's going to be a flight to hedging, all right, investors feel like they're going to have to hedge themselves. Well, they already are hedging themselves, and they're kind of going into gold right now. Why aren't they going into Bitcoin? Because if Bitcoin ain't going down, it's going sideways, then okay. Investors can see maybe it could be a hedge. Who knows? But anyways. Yeah. What do you suggest for a new trader, crypto or Forex? Forex. Learn Forex. I'd say if crypto was a few more years older, I'd say crypto as well. But start off with Forex, because you need to understand why someone's going to change dollars in the first place. All right. You don't want to be thinking, why would they change into Bitcoin if you're all fixated on Bitcoin, like Bitcoin to the moon? Like that, there's nothing there. All right. But when you've got the understanding of why you should buy euros against the dollars and why, you know, what does it mean about the implied differential? Okay. When euro was going down, there's not been that much of a rate of return on the implied. It was around 1.2. It was going up between 1.2, 1.6. Now it's gone up to 1.8, but the term is less, which means that you can then buy euros now and get yourself a nice benefit over the next 6 days, which could then lead us to believe that the euro is going to move up. You can see it's trading positive for the day. Yeah, cool. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to love you and leave you, but please trade safely. I'll be tuning into you all later on tonight. Let's see what Powell has to say. Keep your bets light. Keep it short and sweet. Don't give the market maker a discount, and I'll be tuning into you all later on. All right? Mad love and respect. Peace.